Hey folks, patch 10.17 is finally here, and with it comes a whole new round of content to explore and plunder. We've got new outdoor world content, several new storylines to work through, plenty of new ways to gear up, level up, and a lot of special events to look forward to. But with so many options and so much going on, what should you do first in the new patch? Well, this one we're going to break down in this video. There are some quests that you definitely want to get done. There are some specific rewards you should be going after. But some of this stuff is required while other parts are totally optional. So depending on what you want to do, you can save yourself a lot of time and effort. In this patch there are also a couple of reward traps that I want to warn you about. So here's what to do first in patch 10.17 and how you can avoid wasting your time. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. First things first, patch 10.17 introduces the first chapter of the next seasonal stories. So when you first log in, you should get a prompt to visit Chandra's Feather Moon and Val Dragon. The quest is called a Sentinel Summit, and she's super easy to find right near the front steps. The primal lists and making their move, and they've recruited some fiery friends to their cause, all in an effort to break into the Emerald Dream to try and find our precious new world tree. Not everyone on the primalist side agrees with X methods are giving us an opportunity to bring an unlikely ally to our side. The storing content is nice, and I like that it sets the stage for what will happen in patch 10.2. We get a little taste of where the story is heading. But it's more important than just giving us an early look. In patch 10.17 back when that launched, we're not the first chapter of the 10.1 story to work through. But when patch 10.1 launched, that first chapter was still required if you wanted to move on to Zara like Kevin Sir. In patch 10.17, this is going to be chapter 0 of 1 or 1 of 1 when you finish it for the Emerald Dream story. But it will most likely transition into the actual 10.2 story, and at that point, it's going to be one of 9 or 1 event or however many chapters we end up getting. My point here is that if you want to jump into the new content when patch 10.2, hence you want to get this chapter done before then, otherwise, you'll be stuck running these quests in 10.2 while everyone else is delving into the Emerald Dream or wherever it is that we're going next. So be sure you get the main story campaign done in 10.17 if nothing else. And another set of story quests was introduced with this patch that deal with the Bronze Dragonflight in their relationship with the Infinite Dragonflight. This quest line was really interesting and opens up the potential for some interesting story options later on to do with these two factions at the top of the city. The aspects you should be able to find Chromie, who has a quest for you, so you may have skipped over it already. If you've been looking for important new quests on your maps, if you talk to Chromie, they'll ask you to sit in on a little discussion between Nosdormu and the familiar Infinite Dragon. Eterna is just a nice peaceful chat between sworn enemies. What could go wrong? That's why Chromie wants us to tag along just in case it cannot Domu in the Infinite Dragonflight. See eye to eye, you'll have to find out by working way through these new story quests. At the very end you get these really cool Sand Timer Hourglass Shoulder transmog, this one in the bronze color and one in the infinite colors. So if you love unique transmog, there's one more reason to get these quests done. After you've completed this story section with Nozomu and the Infinite Dragonflight, another quest should pop up, and Val Dragon, that turns you on over to hold to continue with the Reforging of Tyr storyline. This patch introduces part 3 where we go hunting for the last discs of Tyr to try and restore him properly. This quest does require you to have completed the Chromie quest line we just talked about, and you also need to complete the previous quest lines involving Tyr and his reforging process. Those quests are locked behind while Dragon Renowned tiers, so if you haven't done those quests, so you don't have the appropriate renowned level, you won't be able to see or complete this quest just yet. So if you can't find this one specifically, you've got some catching up to do with the Veil Dragon Renown and the story quests you want to lock there. So while these quests were not required for the main story campaign introduced in this patch, they are still required for some of the other side story quests. That's not all though, we also have a small storyline that deals with the remnants of the Undead Flame and how the Dracthyr are processing the death of Sokka. So that's one more thread that gets wrapped up in this patch. You can find this starter, that quest, in Veil Dragon over on the west side. The quest does show up on the map and it's called a Single Wing. So if you're interested in how the Dracthyr's story is progressing, get those quests done as well. So loads of new story content, and move things along and get us ready for the next season and the next big chapter of Dragonflight in patch 10.2. It's not just story quests though, you also want to check out the new Dreamsurge event, especially if you have some characters you want to gear up. This event is really simple. One of the 4 Dragon Owl zones experiences the Dreamsurge per week. So this week is the week in short, and it will swap over next week and just rotate through the zones. While the event is active, you can hop on over to the Dreamsurge icon on the map and find Hamel Rune Totem. He has 2 weekly quests for you, one that rewards you with a Dreamsurge chrysalis and the other one is going to reward you with a bee or a box of 402 gear. The chrysalis is super important because you can use them to buy for 15 gear or wormcrafts from Rune Totem. This gives you an easy way to get pieces of gear you need the higher item levels. So if you really need a weapon, you can just buy a weapon. If you really need boots, you get the idea. You can buy whatever you want. I would pause here though and take a minute. While getting quick for 15 gear of your choice is definitely nice. These tokens are currently limited to just 1 per week by the looks of things, so they are quite restricted. Personally, I think we should have been able to get more than 1 per week. That's the point of a catch-up patch, is it not? To get caught up for 15 gear is not that high of an item level. And even though you can upgrade that gear pretty far, getting the crests to facilitate those upgrades isn't easy either. But that's where the other item on this agenda comes into play, a box of worm fragments. You get 15 fragments. So it's basically just 1 wormcraft, so you can get for 15 gear, or you can get 1 wormcraft per week. I think the wormcrafts are more worthwhile because you can get for 15 gear or higher from other sources like the Fire Rack Assaults, or the weekly events, the world bosses, lower end mythic plus dungeons, and the raid. There are a lot of sources that are available to all sorts of player types. But the wormcrafts are harder to get. They're needed to upgrade your gear to 437. So a lot of casual players especially have kind of been locked out of gear upgrades that require worm crests. So these events do give you access to for 15 gear, but they also give you easy access to wormcrafts to let you finally upgrade your gear further. So I would actually look more towards the wormcrafts. The other vendor has item level 402 bind on account gear tokens. So this is where the majority of your catch-up gear is going to come from. Each piece costs 100 Dreamsurge coalescent, and this stuff is super easy to come by. Killing rares or completing world quests in the zone will earn you quite a bit of this currency. As well as taking part in the Waking Portal event and killing the mini-boss, there are Waking Portals pop up every 30 minutes. And right now there are enough people running around these events to make them incredibly quick, so they only take a few minutes max. Sadly, there are also so many people running around right now that you might not actually get to play properly. But as long as you get that 1 hit on the mini-boss for the tag, that's all you're going to need for the loot. Every big rare that pops up on the world map and gets announced in the zone becomes empowered, giving him extra abilities and better loot. This includes the coalescence currency, but also the 402 gear tokens, so that they can just straight up drop from rare monsters as well. You can also find some floating green balls in the zone in the air, and if you dragon ride through those, you'll get some well-playing crest fragments and some Dreamsurge coalescence. So keep your eyes open for those. All in all, between the vendor where you can buy specific gear tokens and the ones you get from random drops, you should be able to get enough 402 gear tokens during this event to instantly upgrade any of your old gear up to 402, even if they just didn't level 70. This is going to be one of the fastest ways to gear up in the patch as well if you aren't below that 402 mark, so the 415 gear isn't really the catch-up gear in this patch. That's just letting you get a little higher than you might already have. The 402 gear is the real catch-up here. I would tinker around with the event, check out the vendors and see if there's anything you want to work towards during this patch. We also have 2 new heritage armor sets to unlock in this patch. The first one is for the Night Elves. It's a big throwback to the Warcraft 3 days and the set looks great in my opinion. Beautiful filigree feather pauldrons. What more could you want for the Night Elves? To start this quest that you need to be level 50 or above on your Night Elf character, and then you can find the start of the quest in the Stormwind Embassy. It's a scroll on the table which starts the quest called the Clarion Call. Is just the purple set that is available right now. But hopefully that white and silver version that was data mined from the PTR will be available later on. Maybe as an addition to the storyline or quest line in a later patch. The other race getting a heritage armor in this patch of the Forsaken. This one looks exactly like what you would think Dark Purple's Coffin School's spikes. You would fit in as a Death Guard in the Undercity. Wearing this getup, it's really cool. To start this quest line you need to be level 50 or above on your Undead character. It's worth noting that you do need to have already completed the Return to Loader on quests to start this one. Patch 10.17 also introduces the heroic mode of the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon. So if you still haven't managed to work your way through the dungeon, you can now queue into it on heroic mode. Just open your dungeon finder, select specific dungeons, and then you can queue into either wing of the mega dungeon. It has been split into 2 wings with 4 bosses each to make them more bite-sized adventures, and they should also be quite a bit easier when compared to the mythic difficulty mode. The gear and rewards will obviously be lower, but you'll be able to see the bosses and the story if nothing else. That's most of the stuff you can get done in-game right now. But there are also a few things unlocking over the coming weeks as well. On September 12th, we'll be able to progress through the new Draenei story content to unlock new skin color options. We address characters so you can rock that cool Aradol red color on September 26th. The Turbulent Timelines event will start up again, giving us constant back-to-back weeks of time-walking events. We'll go through the entire time-marking catalog, and the weekly reward should be increased up to heroic raid loot. There's also a new experience both this time, which adds up to a total of 30% bonus experience if you keep stacking it up, so it's gonna be a great time to gear up, level a bowl to get time mode badges and any other time walking rewards you might still be working on, like bounce or reputation. And then on October 4th, the Eastern Kingdoms Cup event will start. This is pretty much the exact same thing as the Calendar Cup event if you took part in that new dragon writing races added to the old world, but this time it will be across the Eastern Kingdoms instead of calendar. So a lot more zones to zoom through, more badges to collect, and more rewards to chase after. And that's pretty much it. This patch is going to serve as a huge catch-up patch for both leveling and gearing up to help everyone get ready for the next big patch for Dragonflight. So there's everything you can do in patch 10.17, and what I would recommend you do first. How do you feel about the first chapter, the new story, being included in the 0.7 patches? Is it a good way to drum up hype and get everyone excited about where we're heading next? Or would you rather an old just be included in the major patch instead? What are you going to be working on to get ready for 10.2, leveling up your own scaring of your characters, or maybe something else? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. It's all my members you know on YouTube. You can see the names floating by on screen. If you'd like to add your name to the end of every video and a special shout out at the start of next video, you can find links in the description over to Patreon. Well, click the join button just below this video. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you never miss another video. Thanks for watching, good luck and have fun, and as always, I'll see you next time.